This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Brian E.
Hey, everybody. My name is Brian Everett. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Brian. I gotta tell you, I'm a little nervous. I never really get nervous, but I was just locked into a room full of people, with people my mom warned me about growing up. But, where's the exit? Okay. No, but I really like this room. It's got a great feel, good energy, a lot of people really doing this thing, and I'm sure there's just tons of sobriety in this room. And a lot of people really willing to help the newcomers who stood up. Welcome. Welcome, David. And everybody else who stood up as a newcomer. Or even if you didn't, welcome. Congratulations to the birthday people. 14 years and 8. Right on. Way to go. I have been sober for, I just figured it out, 3 days, 2 weeks, 9 months, and 15 years. And when I got here, I just wanted to feel okay. I didn't plan on ever staying for 15 years and 9 months and a few weeks and 3 days. I just wanted to feel okay in my own skin. And I never knew that there would be a way for me to do that, ever. My whole life, I just wanted to be liked by you. I wanted to feel like I fit in. I wanted to be loved. And I just wanted the fear to go away. And there was a lot of it, I will tell you in a few moments. And I'll tell you what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. But I want to thank Josh for asking me to come share with you guys. I've known Josh. We don't get to see each other anymore, but what a great guy. And we got sober on Sunset Strip, a little room called Dublin's. And I tell you, wherever you find AA, whether it be the Log Cabin, Architects of Subversity, Yucca and Gower, 26th and Broadway, or Huntsville, Alabama. It's like whenever I walk into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I tell you, not as much as LA. We're really lucky to have this kind of sobriety in LA. LA rocks. The energy is so amazing, and I tell you, my sponsor recently, last year, he suggested that I find some spiritual outlet. So I found a church that I really dug. It's non-denominational, but I found a church that I could go get spiritually tapped in. And it's not the same. The pastor may say, hey, turn to your neighbor and say hi, and people really don't care. They're saying hi. Maybe, but here people, it's been my experience that people look at me and say, how am I doing? And I say, oh, okay. No, they go, how you doing, bro? No, come on. And it's like no place on earth. So if you're here and you're new, welcome. I can tell you that this is the best room I ever walked into. What I was like, I was born to a very large family in Alabama. Well, my mother's had a very large family. We were, she was youngest of 7, so I had tons of cousins, aunts, and uncles, and that was my mom's side. And on my father's side, my father killed himself when I was 2 weeks old, and my mother said that he was an alcoholic, and he was sort of abusive, and he had a lot of problems. And his mother, my grandmother, OD'd twice. The second time she was a prescription drug addict, and the second time it killed her. And then on my mom's side, my 2 oldest uncles died from drunk driving accidents, and a couple of my cousins about 3 years ago, one of my favorite cousins hung himself. His wife killed herself the next week, and then about 2 months later, one of my other cousins sons hung himself. So I can just tell you that there's just like no program for living for a lot of people, especially my family. Alcohol really worked for me. I did think about killing myself once when I was in high school, but I was just too damn chicken to do it. And I tell you, alcohol worked. It made the feelings go away. I was always, well, my mother, she moved us away from Alabama to San Pedro when we lived in the projects. It was just her and I. Well, no, it wasn't her and I right away, but she married an alcoholic who used to beat us up all the time. And I remember my mother being in the kitchen, and he was drunk, and he was beating my mom up, and he had a knife in his hand, and she said, "Go get the manager." And he looked at me and he said, "You do and I'll kill you." And needless to say, well, my mother shortly after that left him, and but it was just her and I. And, we lived in the same area, San Pedro. We'd come home, and my mother made me wait by the door while she checked the house for burglars, because we've been burglarized a couple times. So my point is that all I ever really knew was just fear. Fear of them, fear of this happening, fear of abuse. I moved from San Pedro to Hawthorne. I got beat up, and my bike was stolen from me. I moved from Hawthorne to Florida. These new kids harassed me and scared me on the first day of school, and we had to sit in counseling. And from there to Torrance, Redondo. I mean, I was just new all the time. And I tell you, I never liked that feeling, being new. I always wanted to fit in. I felt I was always out of place. I was extremely uncomfortable, and I think my first escape was TV. I would sit in front of Channel 56 UHF and watch Speed Racer, Three Stooges, and Little Rascals, and I'd be drooling. I'd have drool coming down my face, and my mom would have my TV dinner sitting there, just be frozen cold by the time I snapped out of it. But it was just comedy was my escape, and it still is to some degree. I really love comedy. But cut to, well, I want to talk about selfishness, because the book says that that's one of our primary problems. And I tell you, my mom would try to make me do something. I'd say, no way. She could never make me do anything. And if she got a handle on me and I didn't get my way, I would destroy my room. And I did that a lot. And, even to this day, my primary focus, being a sober member of Alcoholics Today and wanting to just grow, is constantly looking at my selfish, self-centered needs and desires. It's a big one for me. And when I think it was, I might have been 13. I don't know. A lot of people remember their first drink. I'm sure the LSD trip I had burned that memory cell. But I don't remember my first drink, but I do remember this. And that was, it was the most amazing feeling I had ever felt in my life up until that point. And I knew one thing for sure. I made a promise that I was going to do this forever. And I was going to have it in my system, hopefully, every day. And I tried. See, if you're new, I highly suggest you get the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and read it. Read the doctor's opinion. I'm not going to go to college and and pay for a book or pay for a class and not learn about it. If I'm going to commit to something, I'm going to try my best to learn what it's about. And if you're here, I just suggest that you learn about this. Learn. You can always make a decision if you don't like what the book says, you don't like what we're talking about, the choice is yours. But I wanted to know what was wrong with me. And I found out through being here that I suffer from the disease of alcoholism, which has 3 parts to it. The first part being that I have a physical allergy. When I put alcohol into my system, a phenomenon of craving occurs. I don't process it like normal people. I've bartended in my sobriety, and I see people pay $22 for a glass of wine, drink half of it, and split, and that... Are you kidding me? Really? Really? That's boggling to me. Like, a couple will spend maybe $40 on a high-end scotch and a glass of wine. They'll drink a couple sips. Oh, we got our cabs here. Let's get out of here. You know, like... If that was me back in the day, I would like, oh, check that out. I would, because that's my solution for the way I feel. That loneliness, that fear, that discomfort. And so once I put that into my system, this phenomenon of craving occurs, followed by a mental obsession, meaning I spend the rest of my day obsessed on how I'm going to do this again, or how I'm going to plan my day out around it. Can anybody identify with that? And and then there is a spiritual malady, which is the third part the book talks about, that I have, and it's they say, you know, it's talked about as a you know, a square hole. No, it's a round-shaped hole that you're trying to fit a square into. Somebody help me out. That's wrong. It's just I have a spiritual malady, and it comes in the form of loneliness, despair, and shame and guilt. And that hole goes away when I pour alcohol into this hole. And I feel okay. The shame goes away, the fear goes away, the discomfort is eased, and I'm okay. So that is alcoholism. That is what it is made of. That is what I suffer from. And my solution for that is alcohol. Now, boy, I used to... So I remember in high school, this girl, Tiffany Zach, it was like a Friday night. She went out to a party, and I saw her Saturday. She's like, oh, my God. I blacked out last night. It was so scary. I'm going to quit drinking. I swear to God, it's the scariest thing in my life. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? I thought everybody did that. And that's what I'm shooting for. Like, I don't want to feel the way I feel. I don't want to be Brian. I want it to be you. I want to wear your clothes. I wanted your... I never saw the snow until I was 21. I always wanted a brother or sister, and people that had brothers and sisters like, dude, you're so lucky you don't have to share your toys with anything. And I just wanted to not feel alone. I never knew my mother was my real mother. I'm like, how do I know she's my real mom? Like, I feel I was dropped off on this planet without the manual, I swear. Come back soon. But every time I drank, from shortly, you know, it was the weekends, or it was cutting class to go smoke a joint in 7th grade. You know, through high school, got really bad. The day after my 16th birthday, I was obsessed with motorcycles. Street, I had like first bike, I had a Honda 50, then I had a MB5, a Yamaha Hopper, 2 Peugeot mopeds, and a YZ80, followed by a CB125. I wasn't old enough to drive these things, and I lived in an apartment building on Hawthorne Boulevard with no wave. I just was obsessed with these things. And the day after my 16th birthday, I had a permit, I believe, to drive the thing, or it wasn't fully legit, but I remember there was a party on the Thursday when school got out for Friday for summer vacation. And I remember going to this party, and my favorite thing to do was find the booze and start doing cartwheels. And so I was doing that, and I was on my way out I was on my way out just to go out front and be the center of attention. And my friend said, "Hey, I got my dad's Harley. Let's go for a ride." I'm like, "Okay." So we got on the bike and went to the beach, and I had this bright idea. I said, "Well, hey, let's go back to my place and get my 125, and I'll follow you back to the party." So we did. I went back to the party, and I just remember getting just shit-faced. And I was on my way back out to go ride the bike and show off, and there was like a little foyer, and my friend Chris said, "Give me your keys, you're not going to get on that thing." And I remember lying to him straight up. I'm like, "I'm not going to get on this thing, dude, it's cool." And and I walked underneath the foyer, and that's all I remember. I blacked out, and I woke up somewhere around 1 in the morning. They were drilling a pin through my knee because I broke both of my legs. I shattered my right femur, and they were going to basically pull set the bottom half of my leg so my femur could set itself. And they were drilling this thing through my knee, and I woke up just for a second, and I passed back out, and I was drunk driving, and a drunk driver hit me that day. And I remember the next day, well, I was on morphine, and God, you could have chopped my legs off, and it would have been okay. That was unreal. But I got addicted real quick, and I was lying and manipulating the nurses. This was better than alcohol. This was like alcohol times 20. But I remember somebody from hospitals and institutions came in, and H&I means, well, it stands for hospitals and institutions, and for the new guys, you know, when we pass the basket, part of this money goes to different segments of AA where they can bring meetings and books to people who can't get to meetings. So we're totally self-supporting. You know, it's not buying somebody's car mortgage. It's really just helping spread the message to people who want it. We're not preachers. They come to us. We give them the information they need. That's where our money goes. So this woman came in and saw my legs and traction, and she said, "You know, son, your mother thinks you may have a problem with alcohol." And I said, "Fuck you! What are you talking about? It was an accident. It was in the wrong place, the wrong time." I was really offended by that. Well, she had eyes on that I didn't. I was in incredible denial, and that wasn't the end of it. You know, some people will, you know, get a bruise on a beer and say, you know, maybe I should stop drinking or something, you know. But we will just do whatever it takes, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of us will die, and you've seen it. If you haven't, you will. I'm sorry for the friend that passed. I've had so many people pass, man. It sucks, but you know, the good thing is that, you know, we have a solution. I'm only here to tell you that I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body and fear. I still have a little fear from time to time, but I tell you, I don't live the way I used to. I love who I am today, and that is a miracle. The fact that I have not had an obsession for a drink or a doobie blows me away. I've been around it. The thought never occurs to me, and that is a miracle. It doesn't happen always like it happened to me. But if you stick around here long enough and do this work, we don't know why it works. We know how it works. But why this beautiful program and its 12 steps work, I'm still blown away. I'm the guy that could not stop drinking. and could not get sober at the same time. I'm the guy that never imagined my life without alcohol. Today, I've been free of alcohol for coming up on 16 years, and my life has never been better. Well, what happened was, there's a little more of what I was like. I moved to San Diego after high school. Me wanting to be the center of attention, in surfer terms, I was a flounder. And I became a real goofball flounder. I had nicknames, just weird nicknames. And I moved to San Diego, and it was heaven. At the time, it was 1986. You could drink on the beach. I was a surfer. Like, you could have, 20 kegs, 40 kegs, didn't matter. You could drink on the beach. I'm like, what up with this? This is awesome. So, needless to say, it was just about every day was another blackout. And being in a surf community, it's like all about skateboards and bikes. I mean, I didn't really have to drive too often, but it never stopped me before. I would be drunk or in a blackout, and I'd drive that car. And I rolled my truck one night, showed up in the hospital, and I refused to take blood or whatever, and they hit me with a DUI. I went out and bought a 1976 AMC Matador for $300, and I was waiting my court date, and I had a fake ID because I was 18, but I still had to be in those clubs. I still had to drink like my friends. I wanted to be in the scene, in the happening places. So I remember my friend, it was Garnet Avenue, my friend, I had a pillow and a blanket in the back seat of my car. I wasn't going to drink again and drive, excuse me. I was going to just crash in the back of my car. He takes off, and I realize he's got my ID on his floor. So I get in the car, I get one block, and it's like, woo! I'm like, shit. Ugh. And I went to jail, and I walked from the jail cell the next morning straight to the courthouse for my first DUI. So I'm like in court going, okay, Judge, I'm here for my DUI, but I got one last night. And luckily for me, I wasn't convicted of anything, but they just wrapped it all up as two. And, two. And another year later, I got another DUI, and I blew like a 2.26 or something, just loaded. And they wanted to put me in jail for a year, and I'm like, I'm not going to do well in jail. And so I spent 2 years just, my bright idea was just move right behind the bar that I worked at. I loved. So I could see the door of the bar from my bedroom window. I'm like, this is where I need to be. And so 2 years later, 2 years later, I wanted to start doing things. I wanted to move to LA and get into some things and start a career. And you know what? I'm like, I got to get this out of the way. So I turned myself in, and I ended up doing 4 months and a halfway work furlough, and I was told I had to do 40 AA meetings, and I don't know about you, but like I have a pretty big ego from time to time, and it's like, I surf. I have 10 surfboards. I got the best surf job on the beach. I got, if I'm gonna do AA, I'm gonna do it good. And so, they're like, the shares are going around. They're looking for people to share. I'm like, oh, dude, wait till you hear this one. I got a good one. Wait till you hear this one. This is gonna blow you away. And so I started to share as an alcoholic. I started to open up. And because I wanted to do the good shares, I wanted to be the good, participant and be a good AA. I'm like, dude, whoop, 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 check this. And so, so I started to share. I started to be open and honest with these people, and open just enough for the message to take hold, and for me to take a look at my drinking. And so somewhere about the last few nights of being incarcerated, I had like 2 weeks left. I had already done my meetings. I just stopped going, and I knew what day I was going to get out, and I started to plan my introductory back into drinking. And cut to a Thursday night at midnight, I was let out. I went back to the bar that I had loved to drink at, and he sat this 22-ounce glass of Miller Amber Ale down on the counter. And I liked that because it was 5.5% alcohol. And I don't know about you, but I don't care what alcohol it is. I drink for the effect. Shoe polish got me drunk. If that was it, I would drink it. And he set that down on the counter, and I was like looking at it for roughly 20 minutes or so, and I finally had the courage to do it. And I don't remember anything after that. I woke up with a broken hand, a very unattractive woman in my bed. No offense to any unattractive women. I had done cocaine. My phone was blinking with this girl I had a crush on, and she said, "Don't you ever call me again, ever." And that was my moment of clarity. But I did not. I stopped drinking I stopped drinking right after that. It was Saturday, December 13th of 1993 was the last alcohol I ever had. But there was no way I could do this life thing without something. So I did my second favorite love, which is marijuana. I had the shit on every flat surface of my house. I became the pot dealer. I was stoned 24/7. I had a lot of money saved. And but I tell you, I shortly after that, I saved some money, and I moved to Hollywood, and I moved on Orange and Melrose. And I only mention this because right next door is the whatever meeting. And but I looked in the mirror one day, and I didn't know who I was looking at anymore. I was a complete zombie. I didn't know when the last time I had laughed, what I liked to listen to. Well, I knew what I liked to listen to was just whatever you listened to. I had no personal identity. I was a complete zombie. I was lifeless. And that I'm almost to my last day. But that was enough to make me realize that I needed some help. And my roommate at the time said, "Brian, you know, they have meetings next door at the church on Tuesdays." And it was a Tuesday afternoon, I think, and it was that night that the whatever meeting was happening. And I've always had a belief in a higher power, God, if you will, many forms of God. But I believe God, in my heart said, go to this meeting and just avail yourself. And so I went to this meeting, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. My friend Kelly H. was the secretary, I remember that, and a couple other people, Louis O. and some other people around, and I'm like, these guys are cool. And we held hands at the end, and I just remember crying to the prayer. And because the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. For the first time in my life, I felt that I wasn't an outcast someplace. For the first time in my life, I felt hope. And maybe there was a chance that I could have what I saw in your eyes, the laughter, the sense of direction and love for your fellow man. And okay, so I was digging it. I went, and about 16 days after that, I was at 3rd and Gardner on a Sunday, and I was in the bathroom, and my friend Paul came up to me, and he said, "Hey man, have you got a sponsor yet?" And I just remember, oh boy, here we go. I just watched his lips move, and he was like, wah, wah, wah. I'm like, dude, like, cause you know what? I can do this my way. I don't need to. I'm always the half measures guy. You know, I want the easier, softer way. I want to do it my way, which is probably easier and softer. But as we soon discover, by staying here long enough, it is not the easier, softer way. Trying this on your own, good luck. Good luck to anybody. And I would like to see you succeed. I mean, who wants to be in AA forever? I mean, but I've learned to love it. All my friends are here. I love AA. I absolutely love Alcoholics Anonymous. Where was I? So, Paul was telling me, you know, if you guys want, no. So I'm like, I'm going to separate myself from AA, and I did. So I'm doing it on my own. It was like the 4th day I was doing it on my own, and somebody, my roommate's friend, came over with a bag of pot, and I'm like, ooh boy. I smoked some pot, and I've never been paranoid in my life, but try drinking or getting stoned after a head full of AA. After you've really started to maybe give this a real honest shot. It sucks. So I just remember like, oh man, it was just the worst joint I've ever smoked in my life. And so I took my friend Paul's advice. I'm like, this is it. I know what to do. I got to stop fighting. Surrender to win is what I did. I dove into AA, and I did this just like I did in jail. I gave it my best. I gave it my 100%. I got a sponsor. I immediately did a 4-step. I did my 5th step, and I was like on the 8th step the next day. It took me 3 years to complete my 9-step amends. But I want to share 1 or 2 with you real quick. The feeling that I had when I consumed alcohol for the very first time had to be replaced with another type of spirit, which I found here. And one of the ways that I find spirit is an example I'm going to share with you right now. I ripped off $180 worth of quarters from this car wash when I was in high school. And I went back there 15 years later. I looked on the wall and I called the number. I said, hey, this is Brian. Did you own the car wash in 1983? He's like, no, that was Bob. Why don't you call Bob? So I called Bob. I'm like, hey, Bob, are you the guy that owned the car? No, that was Tim. Call Tim. So I called Tim and said, Tim, are you the guy that owned the car wash in 1983? He said, yeah, that was me. I said, well, look, I am a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. In order for me to stay sober, I want to repay you what I stole from you, and I want to make right where I went wrong. And I owe you $180. There was a long pause, and he said, great, send me a check. I'm in Palm Springs. He like won the lottery. He won the lottery. So I sent him a check. He wrote me back saying, I can't believe there are people like you in this world. God bless you. Keep on your path. And like that feeling happened. That happened. The spirit, the feeling happened when I drank. It was the same type of feeling. It was like, wow. It was like really just love and spirit that I had never felt before. I went back to this liquor store that I stole 5 cases of beer from. And I got the guy on the phone. I said, dude, did you own this thing in 1983? He says, yeah. I said, I stole 5 cases of beer from you in 1983, and I'd like to make right where I went wrong. He says, you're kidding me. He says, I'm sober too. Throw it in the basket. God bless you. Those are just a couple of the examples, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen to you. But what happened is I left all that shit behind me. I got sober. I cleaned the wreckage of my past, and I walk today without shame and guilt. If I have If I do something wrong, I have a 10th step that I can immediately go to, check myself with my sponsor, and get right. This is the best thing that I've ever done. And I don't go. I want everybody to just give this a shot. Try the 12 steps. If you don't find what we have here works for you, you can always go to a liquor store or a crack in the alley or whatever your thing is. But I want to tell you this. I don't go into a 12-hour surgery and stop at 4 going, oh, doc, I got it from here, bro. That's good. 4 hours is just fine. I do the whole surgery. I do the whole process, and I get the whole result. Thank you for letting me share with you.